You know, the attacks and the airstrikes continue, and then you have this Radar Online report. It was sort of like a tongue-in-cheek report on the condition of one Vladimir Putin. It talks about how he looks swollen, his face is swollen, he sweats a lot, he stumbles. So what they're telling you or trying to convey is that he's not all there. Now, some say it's the pressure of the war, but a lot of people, they have known him for a long time. No, this was building before the war. He might be very sick. No one knows, but we do know this. No one has tried to overthrow him, or at least succeeded in that regard. To General Jack Keane on all of this. General, I know I'm going a different route here, but I thought I'd pick your brain on this because it is very hard to topple a despot or a dictator. I mean, you could look at him as being the Russian president, but he's obviously a lot more than that. Do you think these reports of oligarchs and business tycoons, some of whom are speaking out against him, albeit outside of Russia, are beginning to take hold?
Well, certainly those reports are there, and I don't make light of it, but at the same time, I just recognize that Putin has been in power for 22 years. He's consolidated that power, to be sure, in terms of the loyalty of those that he has around him, which are considerably smaller in number than what they were in the past. And his number one objective, Neil, is to stay in power. And he's working at that every single day because he knows the alternative. Once he comes out of power, because of how he led and all the enemies that he has, not only is his wealth at risk, but his life is at risk. Really? And he knows that.
So you have to have a successful conclusion of this war then, right? For him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He certainly wants that, and he's determined to try to achieve that. You know, despite all the impediments and obstacles that the Ukrainians are putting in front of him, to include NATO, Europe, and the world writ large. But yes, I hear what they're saying, but I don't think Mr. Putin is going anywhere, and we got to face reality. As long as Putin is in power, Neil, he is about returning Russia to the Russian Empire, and he is ambitious about taking countries that he believes should be there. And we have to take that serious and don't think of him as being short-lived. As long as he's there, he's about that mission and staying in power.
So how did those who in the past have taken down or tried to take down those in power, you know, in the case of Adolf Hitler and Mussolini, who was later successfully overthrown, in Libya, Muammar Gaddafi, they turned on him, but we're far from those points. I get that, General. I'm just wondering what gets you to that point. What is the trigger for that? If this economic hit and the sanctions hit continues back in Russia, or what? What would change that?
I think the most significant thing that we've seen in the past that puts pressure on leaders is the people themselves. And that's why he's focused so much on driving the international media out of Russia so they can't report on the war, and focusing on state television and their own control of information. And best on what we're getting out of Russia is that close to 80% of the people see him favorably, and they are accepting the false narrative that he's gone into Ukraine to conduct a special military operation, not a war, to deal with Ukrainian genocide being committed against Russian-speaking people in the independent republics inside of Ukraine.
And they're buying that,
They have accepted that narrative.
They're buying all of that.
They are buying that to this day. Now,
Wow.
some of that is going to begin to erode as the casualties come home, as thousands of soldiers are really missing in action because they've left their bodies on the battlefield. The younger people are much more attuned on how to get around the restrictions on social media that Russia has imposed. So they're tuned into what's happening. They have friends in other countries that are helping them. So eventually, the real story will start to permeate this closed society that he's dropped, the so-called Iron Curtain he's put down on his country. But that will take some time. That's months away, and we've got obviously an intense war in front of us that we're dealing with for the next several weeks and possibly months itself.
General, thank you, and indulging my curiosity just about the backdrop for this and Vladimir Putin, what's happening there, and you were very kind to do so. General Jack Keane, the retired U.S. four-star general.